Welcome back to another episode of Warren Cali. In this episode, I will talk about crime in Hayward. Hayward is the 6th largest city in the Bay Area, which includes 100 other cities, and also the 3rd largest city in Alameda County. Hayward was ranked as the 36th most populated city in California out of 482 other cities, but Hayward ever rarely gets mentioned in anything. Hayward may not be as well known as other places like San Francisco and Oakland, or even as dangerous, but crime happens everywhere, and once again, Hayward crime isn't the highest in the county, not in California, or not even in the Bay, but Hayward is full of gangs, and that leads to many of the shootings over the years. Now in 2023, Hayward had 10 murders. In 2024, they had 14. Now that may not seem like a lot, but a lot of those murder victims were under 18, and some of the 2024 murders in Hayward involving teenagers is what I will discuss in this video. The first shooting I will discuss happened on June 26, 2024, around 1:58 a.m. in the 24,000 block of 2nd Street. Hayward Police Department found a 15-year-old victim suffering from gunshot wounds. He died at the scene. Around 2:14 a.m., police were notified about a second shooting victim. He had been transported to a local hospital. The victim was only 13 years old. He was listed in critical condition, but stable.
Teenage boys shot in Hayward early yesterday morning. Crime Force Philippe Jagal has more on what neighbors are saying and where the search for a suspect stands right now.
Just before 2 o'clock Wednesday morning, Hayward police officers responded to a shooting on 2nd Street near Hayward High School. Officer Cassandra Fovell says it happened at a house. In this case, 2 teenage boys sustained gunshot wounds. The 15-year-old from Rodeo died on scene. Officer Fovell says the 13-year-old from Hayward turned up at a local medical facility. He is currently in critical but stable condition.
Heather, he was only 15 years old, a high school student who liked sports and wanted to go to college. But those dreams are no longer, and Hayward police are looking for his killer. After his 15-year-old son, Dominique Fank, was shot and killed in Hayward. He's mourning a young life lost, one full of potential.
He wants to play sports. He was on the football teams and basketball. He played everything. And he's already in music. He already made videos.
Fank says his son was robbed, pistol whipped, and shot and killed at a girlfriend's home where 4 adults and many other teenagers were present.
I mean, yeah, I thought adults would be able to, step ahead and wouldn't let anything like that happen. I know I wouldn't let anything happen in my house.
The shooting happened at a home on 2nd Street near Sylvan Glen Court at about 2 in the morning on Wednesday. Fank's son, known as Damo, was killed, and a 13-year-old boy was shot and wounded. Hayward police have not reported any arrests. I've learned investigators are looking into whether the shooting was gang-related. Fank says his son was not in a gang.
Several months later, a 17-year-old suspect was later arrested for the shooting. He currently sits in jail fighting his case. The next situation unfolded around 11:10 p.m. on June 27, 2024. Hayward police received a report about a shooting near the intersection of Mission Boulevard. As police were on their way, they got a call from a 17-year-old boy who said him and his friend were shot. The police located the 2 injured teens. The 17-year-old boy was taken to a hospital for treatment and was later released, but the second victim was an 18-year-old boy and suffered critical injuries. On July 14, 2024, an 18-year-old Hayward man was shot to death in Hayward, in the city's 7th homicide that year. The 18-year-old was found suffering from gunshot wounds in the driver's seat of a vehicle that appeared to be hit by a parked car after the apparent shooting. The man was taken to the hospital, where he died from his wounds. On October 10, 2024, a 46-year-old named Daniel was arrested for the murder. On October 10th, police searched Daniel's home, where they would find several firearms, and they all were booked as evidence. One of the guns was used in the murder. On July 28, 2024, a deadly drive-by shooting happened in Hayward. Hayward police said that officers arrived on the scene and located a 16-year-old female suffering from gunshot wounds. The victim was later transported to a local hospital, where she later died from her injuries. A second shooting victim was later located. The 41-year-old Hayward resident was later transported to a local hospital, where he received treatment for non-life-threatening injuries.
The latest on what's becoming a disturbing trend. Good evening, Henry.
Yeah, sad trend indeed. Many of the recent homicide victims here in Hayward indeed have all been teenagers. Now, the killings themselves don't seem to be related to each other, but the police chief and the mayor all agree more needs to be done as far as outreach to the youths who are also suspected in these tragedies.
Right now, the city is hurting.
A deadly shootout in broad daylight in Hayward took the life of a 16-year-old girl, the latest teenager to die from gun violence in the city. The most recent homicide happened outside this apartment complex on West Tennyson Road near Tyrell Avenue shortly after 11 Sunday morning. Bullets hit the building and a car. At least one shooter opened fire from a car, prompting another person with a gun to return fire.
But we don't know whether or not she was a specific intended target in this incident.
A 41-year-old man was caught in the crossfire and was hit by a stray bullet. He's expected to be okay. Police are trying to find out what led up to the shooting. This is the latest homicide in Hayward that has killed a young victim. The 4 most recent homicide victims in the city have been 19 years old or younger.
The police will say the suspects were wearing hoods and masks and that it was a group of young men. They will also say there were several vehicles involved. At least one shooter opened fire from a car, prompting another person with a gun to return fire. It appears that there was gunfire exchanged between 2 parties, the police said. We do not believe there was a random act. We do believe there was an individual who was targeted. The 16-year-old girl's family was the intended targets. She was just caught in the crossfire. She was Hayward's 8th murder that year. Now, more events have occurred involving shootings and murders in Hayward, but this was a recap of how the violence affected the youth in the last few years. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, check out my previous episodes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.